We have Tony here, Cappaert from Contactually, co-founder, COO. This is our last session of this segment, so why don't we give a warm, just welcoming to Tony.
Cool. Thanks, Dewey. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. I know I'm like the graveyard shift here right before the close, so bear with me. And it's a warm room, so you hopefully won't all fall asleep, and we'll make it through this, and we'll be good. So I'm our COO at Contactually. I am like an analytical, tactical guy. One of the things that really frustrates me about presentations sometimes is when they're really lofty and high level. So hopefully this will not be that type of presentation. I'm trying to walk through what we call our ambassador program. It's the program and system we use to drive post-sales adoption and expansion in our biggest accounts. And I'm going to walk through exactly what we do. Maybe it'll apply for you, maybe it won't, but I hope you'll come away with an exact idea of what we do and how you can maybe apply it to your own company. Cool? Sweet. So, I was going to give a little bit of background on myself, but I figured if you guys want to know about me, you can always look me up on LinkedIn. Instead, what I thought I'd do is just give you a few fun facts about me. So my wife and I have a little bit of a brewery and winery problem, apparently. We go to a lot of them. We live in D.C., just outside of Virginia, so we get sort of good Virginia wine. We go to Napa a fair amount, too, but we do a lot of that. I also am from a really tiny town in the Midwest. And who here is from the Midwest or from rural America? Some folks, okay. So maybe this isn't so surprising for you guys, but for the rest of you, our grocery store was also a meat processing plant mixed together. So literally, my first job when I was 16 years old was going and bagging groceries and stocking shelves and then sawing off the legs of deer that hunters brought in. That was my job. So whenever you ask yourself, you're having a shitty day or you have a bad job, like that was a worse job. I did that for 2.5 years. And lastly, I'm a big hiker, outdoor guy. This is actually a picture of me at Yosemite National Park. I think it's the best spot on earth. Anyway, so just a little bit about me. I share all that because our company, Contactually, is all about helping people build really, really strong, authentic relationships. And I think the way to do that is obviously getting to know people and getting to know a little bit more about them, hence why I shared it. But we're, again, in the business of helping you build strong relationships. We work primarily with people in professional services, so think consultants, realtors, financial advisors, and we help them stay in touch with people that can help give them referrals. That's what we do. But we have a unique challenge in that we sell to a ton of individuals, individual realtors, consultants, and whatnot. We also sell to larger brokerages and firms. And so the issue when we sell to these types of firms is that they're essentially filled with contractors, right? They're filled, like, if we sell to a 2,000-person real estate firm, those are 2,000 individuals who can say, I'm going to use Contactually or I'm not going to use it. They decide the fate of whether they're going to use the product. We can't force them to use it. And so when we sell to an account, of course, they're buying our software because they want the folks in their team to use Contactually and to hopefully get more referrals, but they can't mandate it. And so it becomes super, super critical for us to figure out, how can we drive that adoption? How can we get people to actually use our product? Because if they don't, those folks are going to churn. So that's where the ambassador the ambassador program came from, was how can we actually get all these super finicky realtors, financial advisors, consultants that are in these firms to actually use our software so those customers continue to stay. That's the idea. And here's the real problem with a lot of customers we sell to is they all think they're really unique snowflakes, right? Everyone thinks they're super special and they deserve a lot of one-on-one attention. They can obviously decide which software they're going to buy. And so we need to give them make them feel like they're really individual and special. That's what we do. So let's talk a little bit about the ambassador program. First, I would be lying if I said this was my great idea. This is Brandon. Brandon's one of our customer success managers, and this is his brainchild. But the thought is that it's an exclusive, unique program that helps people in companies. We essentially train the people who are in certain offices. We train them on the best practices of Contactually, and we enable them to go into their respective companies and essentially serve as the subject matter expert to train everyone else. So we're essentially trying to enable a bunch of other customer success reps into the companies in which we sell. And we'll walk through exactly how we do that tactically and why some of the elements that we've seen to be really successful and where we've sort of stumbled in the past. So how does it work? At its simplest, we identify what we call the power users in each account. We'll talk through what our power users look like and how we go about doing it, but that's step one. Then we reach out to the managers in the various offices into which we've sold, and we help us select those power users. So we get buy-in from the decision maker and the manager, as well as from those individuals. We then actually provide one-on-one exclusive coaching and training. We put a dollar value on it. We say it's worth a lot of money, and we give it to them. And lastly, we expect a lot from them. We expect them to really be those trainers and consultants that are on site in our respective customer offices. So let's hop into tactically how it works. So first, finding super users. And by the way, I apologize. I'm a text-heavy slide guy, so the people in the back, I apologize. We'll send the slides out, though. So again, these are large, what we call enterprise, but they're large customers, several thousand users a lot of the time. And they have lots of different offices. Some of those users are already using Contextually, and they're getting a lot of value from it. And so our objective is how can we identify those folks that are using our product the most, and essentially look at some of the metrics to indicate how engaged they are. And as a result, we call those super users, and we want to select them and start to work with them. So this is how we think about the world. First, an activated user is someone who has done 4 steps to onboard in our software. So that's sort of step 1. We got to get someone who's signed in, they connected their email account, they bucketed 25 contacts, and they actually sent a follow-up. That's like the most basic user you can be, that you've done the 4 things we think you need to do. From there, we look at the folks that are active today. So they're signing in, they're following up, and they're following up really regularly. They followed up as recently as a week ago. Those are our super users. And they're a very small subset of the overall users in a given account. But we first identify those super users. We then look at a given office. This is just dummy data, but we'll look at, here's the different offices where the customer, here's the people that have the highest RPA is an internal metric we use. It's relationship point average, but suffice it to say, it's a metric for how engaged they are, and their NPS score. And we present this to the regional manager in those offices, and we say, look, these are the most successful people with Contextually today, the most engaged people. Can you help us pick a few people that could be the ambassadors in your office to help actually drive adoption? And it's really important to involve the regional manager because we want their buy-in. If we're selling to Nancy, and Nancy's got 300 people in her real estate firm, we want her to feel like, yeah, she's working with us to really help make this succeed, make this rollout succeed. But more importantly, if Nancy says, that Bob and Jim are the 2 people that are the ambassadors, well, Nancy's their boss, and Bob and Jim definitely want to make Nancy feel really good, right? They want to make Nancy feel good about them, and so they're going to work super hard. So the idea is get the buy-in from the manager, and make sure those super users feel really, really special and elite. We'll talk more about why that's so important, but it's get the buy-in, but also make them feel like, wow, they're the best people in their company. So how do we get them ramped up? Well, first, these ambassadors are users of our product. Let's take if they're a realtor, they're someone who's running their own real estate business, and they want to get more referrals, they want to grow their leads, they want to grow their business. And so we literally will sit down with them. And much like we would charge someone else if we were going to consult with them, we consult with them for free. And we say, normally we do this for $500 an hour. We're going to give it to you for free. So we plant this seed in their mind like this is this is worth a lot of money, this effort that we're doing. And we actually walk through tactically how we're going to help them grow their business. So we'll say, okay, you signed up for Contextually to get referrals. We're going to help you do that. We're going to set it up for you. We're going to give you this tactical advice on how to be successful. And the key thing here is that we're delivering a lot of value, and it's perceived as a lot of value. So, whether you're doing this in person or over the phone, I think it's fine either way. But ensure that when you're working with these folks, that they actually think that you're really adding a lot of value and you're going out of your way. So by doing this, not only do we have really engaged customers, we're turning those customers into raving fans and people that actually want to help grow Contextually in their organization. So that's super important. And in order to do that, there's sort of 2 cadences that you'll need to probably roll out the door. First, we invest 1 to 2 hours per ambassador from the start to get them fully up to speed in how our product works and how they can roll this out internally in their organization. So we invest a lot of time in the first 30 days when we're first working with an ambassador, and we continue to follow up with them about once a quarter, continuing to do these one-on-one consulting. Again, it isn't a QBR, right? We're not sitting down with the decision maker in the customer. We're not sitting down with the VP or the CEO. We're literally sitting down with an end user who's going to be the consultant or the trainer within the organization. And it takes a lot of time, and it's a lot of work, but ultimately, we'll talk about some of the results. It's been worth it for us. So equipping them, the ambassadors, and this is super, super important. If we were just telling the ambassadors to go and train people on Contextually, who the hell knows what we would get? I mean, we want it to be a controlled environment. And so we literally give them a 90% more or less complete presentation that they can then just tweak a little bit and run with. We want to make these guys feel like they're the ultimate trainers, but we don't want them to do a lot of work. So we give them all the tools, all the training, they tweak it a little bit, and they run with it. And again, these are folks who want to be seen as subject matter experts in their field. A lot of these folks are coaches and consultants outside of their business. So if they're a financial advisor, maybe they want to be seen as thought leaders in their community, so they'll go to different conferences and speak. This enables them to be seen as thought leaders within their office. So we kind of view it as we're going to invest in you. We're going to give you as much tools and support as we can. We obviously expect you to help us in return. That's the idea. And again, the training should make the ambassadors look good. The training it doesn't say, Tony made this, Brandon made this. It doesn't have anything that indicates that we did it. It looks like the ambassadors actually did it and that they're taking this effort all upon themselves. In fact, the other users, by the way, don't even know the ambassador program exists. They just know that these people are doing this effort to drive contextually adoption. But that's some of the how we actually go about training. This is what our training template looks like. So again, I could send you the actual slides. It'd be customized for you, but you can kind of see like insert image here, like why do you sign up for contextually, and all the rest of the slides are literally built out. So our first session is often like, how do you connect your email account and how do you bucket contacts? Those are two important things that you need to do in contextually to get started, and we literally give them the training slides. The ambassador customizes it a little bit, and they go from there. So super simple for them to get started. So that's the basic gist of how it works, right? It's not super complex. We figure out who are the most active users already. We work with a manager to select and train them. We give them the resources and the training and the supplies to actually run with the training, and then we have them roll it out. That's the basic gist. But when we first started doing this, it was like a little test. We didn't really know what the results would look like. And what we found is actually we saw really, really great results. We saw great adoption, we saw great engagement, and we saw ARR expansion across the board in as little as 2 months. So let's look at some of the results. So again, we sell to a lot of professional services firms. These are 3 of the brands that we work with. These are multi-tens of thousands of, we don't work with the whole accounts, but we work with regional offices. We picked a handful of offices and an ambassador for every office, so 13 offices. We built these training decks that they could use, and we ultimately held those one-on-ones I was speaking about earlier with each ambassador. And the results were pretty clear for us. Again, within the first 2 months, the new people that started using contextually. So again, we sell to a 300-person real estate office. The lift of people that were actually using the product was 7% within 2 months. We got a lot more people to actually start using it. More importantly, the existing users also were a lot more engaged. So the people who maybe would have drifted away and churned out, that didn't happen. And as a result, because the brokerages that we sell to oftentimes pay for engaged user licenses, the accounts actually expanded by roughly 10% on average. So our accounts are, for these folks, are like 20 to 30K, expanded by $2,100 on average for those first few accounts. We then expanded it across the board. Actually, just skip a slide for a second. We expanded it to all of our other mid-market enterprise customers, and 30% were really interested in rolling this out, and we saw a similar result. So again, 30% of the enterprise customers started using it. We saw 12% average expansion across the board, and just there's been a lot of iteration and a lot of testing going into it, but it's pretty basic. Like literally, we're just giving training and we're giving slides to people to do training, and then they're a lot more engaged with our product. It seems so stupid, but it worked really well. And just going back a slide, the ancillary benefit on top of just the actual account growth and the greater engagement has been the awesome feedback we've been getting. So the executive, obviously the middle quote here is super important. Our ambassadors are telling me that they're learning a lot from the coaching calls with you. Great work. All right, this is someone who's the ultimate decision maker in the account, and they're happy and they're seeing the value. In addition, the end users themselves, the ambassadors, the presentation was well received. There were 20 people there. I have a ton of feedback for you. So we're getting this great feedback, boots on the ground that we can then give to product. And lastly, from the people that are showing up, thanks so much for the time today. I'm really happy with how you listened to my questions. Awesome. So it's all this stuff that we really wouldn't have the bandwidth or the time to do with these individual users, where now they're associating all this goodwill with contextually when we're not even doing a whole lot, or we're just enabling the ambassadors to do it. So that's just some of the results we've seen. But I'll close in the last few minutes here with some of the lessons learned, I think, and it wasn't maybe as easy as I'm making it out to be. We have a few stumbling blocks along the way. First, just to drive home the point, it's our belief that the best users in an account are far better at actually driving adoption with a customer than we are. Right, we can get on webinars all day long. We can hound them with phone calls and emails. But at the end of the day, we didn't have that great of adoption. We didn't have a lot of users, or we had a lot of users who just weren't using our product. When we got people in the customer to actually do the training, it was like night and day. Right, these are people that they're sitting next to. It's their friends, it's their colleagues. When they're doing the training, the adoption it was just much, much greater. So that was sort of the big thesis we had, and it sort of proved out in the results. Some basic ideas: keep it simple. So we used to do the slides that we put together. We would make these like 40 or 50 slide decks that were super, super detailed. We'd give it to the ambassador, and they would just, no, I can't do this, too much. So I would really, build your training slide deck, build whatever many slides you want, and then like cut it in half. Because the reality is you probably need to keep it even simpler than what you think. So that was probably one of the biggest things. You notice a lot of the stuff I was talking about having these 1-hour coaching calls, 2 hours up front and 1 hour every quarter. That feels like a lot of effort. And I would encourage you to do a lot of stuff that maybe doesn't feel like it's going to scale. For us, we did a lot of that really heavy lifting early on. We did a lot of those like one-on-one calls, and we still do a fair amount of that, but we've shifted now to some more scalable work. So we do webinars with the ambassadors now. So rather than doing a lot of one-on-ones, when we roll out a customer, we'll do a webinar with just the 10 or 12 or 20 ambassadors, and that gives us a little more scale. But I think in general, when you're rolling out a new product or new program like this, just start super. Start super easy and super things that won't necessarily scale to see what works, and then move on from there. This is a really key point, which I don't think is necessarily all that intuitive, but who here knows of Teach for America? A few folks? Okay, actually, a lot of folks. So Teach for America, for those who don't know, is a program that when you first you graduate undergrad, if you don't know what you want to do with your life necessarily, or if maybe you think you want to be a teacher, you can serve as a teacher for 2 years in sort of a poor area in the U.S. And anyway, long story short, it's super exclusive. It's really hard to get into that program. It's 15% acceptance rate. And the reason why that is they've really done a great job of billing themselves as this elite program. It's for people that went to the best schools, the Harvards, the Stanfords of the world, and as a result, they get a ton of applicants, and the conversion rate, or sorry, the acceptance rate is really low. You want that same feeling with the ambassador program. You want them to feel like this isn't for anybody. This isn't for the rest of their colleagues. You've handpicked them, or their manager has handpicked them to do this exclusive, special role within their company. And when we've built it that way, we've like iterated and tested out the messaging. When we build it as just like, oh, can you help us out? They were like, oh, that's kind of interesting. When we said, oh, we talked to Nancy, and Nancy said you'd be the best person for this, and we really we think you do an excellent job here, we got a lot more interest and a lot more people actually engaged. So bill it as a really elite program, and it'll go a long way. I think this should be obvious, but I think with any new program you're testing out, set the clear success criteria and actually track the success. The reason why I know that it's 7% lift in adoption and we had lift in expansion in the actual accounts is that we did a lot of manual tracking of that effort early on. Literally on an office-by-office basis, on a week-over-week basis, we would track how many people are actually using the product, how many people are signing in. And it started as simply as a Google Sheet. Eventually, we started putting it in the CRM. But it doesn't need to be super fancy, but you definitely need to track it to know it's actually working or not. And I think Brandon did a really great job when we were talking about this 6 months ago. We didn't know if it would work, but I think what we both knew is, one, we would keep it really simple. We'd keep it as a V1, and I knew that he'd track the results to see what we got, and he'd be able to say, this is what I think. This is why I think this is going to make sense. This is why I think I should invest a bunch of time into doing this training, because I'm going to drive adoption, and that's exactly what we saw. So make sure you're super, articulate about what you're trying to do. And lastly, I think just in general, this is what we believe at Contactually and how we try to model our customer success program is to have a lot of fun. So we typically do a lot of fun stuff. Like we made these custom bottles of champagne we send our customers. If you go to that link, Contactually has 1 million emails. This guy who sent our millionth follow-up in Contactually, we showed up at his office randomly with balloons and a megaphone and a giant check, and we said Contactually for life. This is one of those programs too, right? I guess it sounds sort of dry, talking about training and whatnot for these ambassadors, but Brandon has had a ton of fun building this out, and it was a cool little side project for him to get a lot more engaged and to do something different from his typical account management work. So, I'm a big believer in just trying out these new little types of things that maybe will be successful, and for us it has been. So I think that's about it.